Necessity is the mother of creation. Technology is the product of a civilization to accelerate development and increase efficiency. But when that drive overtakes the culture it is there to serve, what then? The culture becomes slaves to progress, to technology, as biology itself is bent to the designs of artificial evolution. Hello all, welcome to a veritably villainous version of the Index. I'm Rick, and today we're going to be inspecting the Borg Collective. The Borg themselves are a network of biological units modified by technology which they spread throughout the galaxy with the goal of assimilating all species within that will add to their growth. They are chasing the ultimate goal of perfection, a concept without end, and as such will never be satisfied. The origin of the species is surrounded by rumour and speculation, with even the Borg themselves unaware of their true origins, with memories going back at least 900 years and probably earlier, but their data on that time is fragmentary, perhaps reflecting the state of the Borg at this time. They may have been a species that developed a neural network, then through cyborgification became early versions of the Borg, perhaps to gain immortality of a sort through preservation of memories, or perhaps even a nanotech virus that ran amok. The answers simply elude us. Other sources speculate that the entity known as Voyager created the Borg in its quest to find its creators, to absorb their knowledge, and then used those modified beings for maintenance for Voyager's growing mass. The problem with this is that it means that the Voyager space probe would have to have ended up back in time. As of 900 years ago, the Borg had already begun to expand as a species in the Delta Quadrant, assimilating others into their hive mind. Powers of the time, such as the Tri and the Vardois, knew of the race, but were too occupied with their own wars to consider the fiendish species a true threat. But over the course of the next centuries, relentless efforts on the Borg's part led to an explosion of absorbed planets and a destruction of rival powers. The Borg Collective has a near-complete lack of an actual culture, with all forms of individuality snuffed out as a threat to the unity that the Collective requires to function. Their development over time was exponential, and war with them increasingly futile, as when an individual is assimilated, the opponent loses a soldier, and the Borg gain one. But the true threat is that when assimilated, an individual's entire experience is uploaded to the Borg's neural collective network, and all data that person had is now available to every Borg unit. They may suffer from a cultural stagnation, but this form of expansion allows them to develop and learn new technologies. The Borg are methodical in their targets, assigning every encountered race a numerical value rather than its name. They will often ignore ambient individuals, only assimilating them if they get too close for comfort, or if the effort expended to assimilate is negligible. Although they do seem to place a higher priority on larger populaces, such as entire vessels, again the cost of engagement is weighed against the potential gain for the Collective. When the Borg first encounter a new species, they begin to methodically dissect them, literally and figuratively, cutting away parts of their technology to analyse, abducting members to assimilate their knowledge, and then disposing of the rest. If a species is found to possess knowledge or technology that can be useful to the Collective, that race becomes a priority target, and a Borg cube is dispatched to begin assimilation of their home systems, striking at the centre, then expanding outwards, consuming all in its path, destroying that which resists. Many species have been scattered by the Borg, their home systems lost. Individuals are assimilated when Borg nanites are introduced into the body. They then begin repurposing cells to generate more of these nanomachines that then spread like a virus in a matter of minutes. This spread can actually be seen as the flow of black nanite-laden blood spreads, draining pigmentation. Once in sufficient quantities, these machines begin to generate ports for implants and convert bodily organs into cyborg-like replacements, including the rewiring of brain chemistry to adapt the individual to the Borg network, to allow for the flow of information. All traces of free will are suppressed, and the new drone begins to work on behalf of the Collective, reporting for further processing and conversion into a useful unit based on the former individual's talents and the Collective's needs. Appendages are added from weapons to tools, scanners and medical instruments. Usually an eye is gouged out and replaced with a prosthetic which has a wider viewable spectrum. The biological components left are fueled entirely by the technology, which itself is recharged on regular intervals known as a regeneration cycle in specialised alcoves. In this state, the Borg's mind is still networked into the collective. Their very minds are the computers that power their ships. The structure of the collective is vast and increasingly complex as it grows. Drones are the vast majority of the species. Ironically, they come in a diverse myriad of forms, each tailored for a specific purpose. There are no true commanders in the collective, so no ranking system, no government, only the single will of the collective and its clinical processes. Borg are unified into matrices, large units usually assigned to sectors and duties. These are further divided into adjuncts. These matrix are then compiled into larger groups called unimatrix. At the centre of a unimatrix was a Borg queen, the closest thing to an individual that the collective has. Despite appearances, the queen did not impose her individuality on the collective, but instead displayed the collective will of the Borg. Her purpose was to effectively act as a processor for the hive mind, regulate and assign information where necessary, impose order on the chaos of billions of minds. Whether or not there is only one queen is unknown, but the queen is capable of simply being recreated in another drone if terminated. The technology of the Borg is vast, as it is the sum of many species' pinnacle of developments. They possess transwarp capabilities through the use of subspace corridors maintained by a network of gates and hubs that spans a significant section of space. Their distinctive ships are simple geometric shapes with no front, back or command center. Instead, almost every major system is hardwired throughout the ship in its entirety, with a ridiculous number of backups and failsafes. This means that damaging the cube is easy, but actually disrupting any systems in a meaningful way is near impossible unless 78% of the vessel is destroyed. Even then, the Borg can simply rebuild the vessel, regenerating major damage. Converted ships taken over by the Borg have been noted to increase in mass, suggesting advanced replicator technology to convert energy into matter. Their offensive capabilities are some of the most formidable that the Federation has encountered, and on multiple instances a single Borg cube can obliterate an entire fleet of ships. Defensively, they possess an adaptive matrix that analyses incoming energy weapons and neutralises their effectiveness entirely. Varying the method of attack is the best way to overcome this, but even this will fail over time as you run out of options. Even if a single Borg cube is destroyed, they will eventually send another. They even possess limited time travel capabilities, but they don't use this feature to assimilate species often, as their goal is to attain perfection, and simply assimilating a species before it's reached its significant technological level is pointless. They need other cultures to naturally grow and develop, so that when absorbed into the collective, they actually bring something to improve them. The hive mind itself is based on technology, but does possess some telepathic facets from the numerous races with mental powers they've assimilated. This can be surmised by the fact that even disconnected former drones, such as Jean-Luc Picard, can sense the Borg mind with proximity. Apart from the infamous Borg cube, there is the even more robust tactical cube, which was an exclusively combat-focused variation of the cube. There was the smaller, less able but more specialised Borg sphere, usually reserved for scout missions and events where an entire cube was not needed. The smaller probe that was simply a recon vessel sent out to monitor and search. The Borg Diamond, or Queen ship, seems to be a vessel designed to optimise the Queen's ability to operate and regulate the hive mind. And finally, there is the Borg Type 03. Unlike the other vessels, this is an asymmetrical design that may simply be an assimilated vessel or a collection of Borg ships grafted together to increase operational power. As with biology, Borg nanoprobes will convert technology to their own ends, leading to many converted ships of previous factions. Because of the advanced nature of the Borg technology, Powers such as the United Federation of Planets will always attempt to salvage what they can and then use it to advance their own sciences. A theme can be seen here, as the greatest weakness of the Borg is their own technology being used against them. Several times the introduction of a virus or unexplained programming into the collective has led to widespread dissemination of it through the hive mind. The individuality learned by Hugh created a sort of programming error that was then reabsorbed into the Borg collective, returning individuality to drone units. A technological pathogen from Admiral Janeway was assimilated into the collective that shut down the communications between the Queen and the drones. This led to unregulated malfunctions across multiple systems and a fracturing of Unimatrix 01 entirely. Likewise, an error in programming led to the creation of a virtual world where individuality was temporarily restored to drones during their regeneration process. The standard response to such infection from the Borg is to quarantine and then cauterize. Another weakness of the Borg is that if they are denied information, they cannot adapt, having become so reliant on the assimilation process that when they encountered species 8472, an extra-dimensional race they are unable to assimilate, they promptly get their nodes crushed time and time again. The fear that this race introduces into the Star Trek mythos is undeniable. A single cube entering a system and broadcasting the iconic message of intent and unwavering purpose of the Borg to assimilate, adapt and overwhelm is a terrifying notion of technology run rampant, where instead of serving us, we are slaves to it. The fact that they tend to ignore passive observation for the most part shows their power. Only active aggression draws their ire, or if you become too inquisitive. They don't care if you learn about them, they are beyond your attempts to mount a defence. Lower your shields and surrender your ships. They assimilate everything your species has created, they strip diversity and your identity. The sum of who you are as a people amounts to nothing to the Borg but a resource to be consumed. The addition of your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. If your race catches the attention of the Borg, then you best run, because they'll be coming for you. Not your riches or your wealth, no bartering here, just you. Your everything. In service to the collective. Your culture will adapt to service us. If your species proves too troublesome to add to the Borg, or they've learned as much as they can through assimilation of smaller targets, then they will simply resort to applying overwhelming force to eliminate you instead. Some would argue a preferable outcome. Resistance is futile. Except, we know it's not. Thanks for watching this index. As usual, you can cast your vote for the next species the index covers by liking the appropriate comment below, and the next choices are a brief stop in the Destiny universe with the Awoken of the Reef from Forsaken, or let's keep it Trek with another race with a different kind of immortality, the Trill. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, I've been Rick, certifiably adjunct to Unimatrix in-game. And goodbye.